In a world where...
Is this thing on?
Barely.
This episode of the Just John podcast is brought to you by the random fact that the unique sound of Kylo Ren's force powers in Star Wars The Force Awakens was created by altering the sound effect of a cat purring, and two of the most amazing patrons on the planet. Find out how you can become a patron of the show by heading on over to justjohnpodcast.com/support. What up, homies? I'm your host, John Medina, and this, my fine ladies and gentlemen, is the Just John Podcast, episode 32 for the week of April 2nd. Today on the show, Cast AR, the internet broke AI, Freddy got fingered in 2016, and more.
Hello, I'm Bill Nye. You may know me from such things as science.
Cast AR. So what exactly is Cast AR? Well, it's a set of glasses that are augmented reality versus virtual reality. Basically, what they do is instead of replacing the real world, it utilizes the real world. So, for example, if you wanted to play a game like Battleship, you would lay the mat out on the table and then you would play Battleship, and the table would be the water and you would have the boats floating on it, and your little bullets or mortars, I guess, would arc through the air and different things like that. What's unique about Cast AR is how much backing it has behind it. Co-founders Rick Johnson and Jerry Ellsworth were Valve employees, and they left Valve and took their idea with them. And Ellsworth handles the hardware, Johnson handles the software, and together they have big partners and big co-workers. They've got a $15 million venture capital fund and over $1 million that were pledged to them on Kickstarter. However, they refunded their money back to their Kickstarter supporters, but will also still give them headsets once they come out. So they've got experience, they've got money, and they've got talent, and they've got a lot of support, but augmented reality lives in the shadow of VR, especially when you've got Oculus Rift, which is owned by Facebook, PlayStation VR, which of course is PlayStation, and the Vive, which is by HTC, and all of these are getting ready. Well, the Oculus is already out. PlayStation VR is on pre-order, Vive's on pre-order, so all of these devices are going to be out within the year. And the HTC Vive on top of that was produced by Valve, which originally was who was going to produce Cast AR. Cast AR could be most closely compared to Microsoft's HoloLens, which is another AR set of glasses. But Cast AR isn't exactly as complicated as Microsoft's HoloLens. The augmented reality headset operates in three parts. It has a computer, glasses, and the mat. Now, you heard me talk about the mat earlier, but I didn't really concentrate on it a whole lot. So the computer provides the power to produce the images, which is projected from cameras on the rims of the glasses onto the mat. The image then bounces back to the glasses, which feature head tracking and rapid tiny shutters that work together so that the wearer sees on the mat a lifelike 3D image. This is really, really interesting, but it does have some limitations that VR specifically and then even Microsoft's HoloLens don't have. So Microsoft's HoloLens does not require a mat or anything like that. So you can just throw on the glasses and your whole room or your wherever you are, the park or whatever, can turn into the augmented reality platform. However, with Cast AR, you need to have this mat in order for it to work correctly. Some of these limitations could be advantages. The lower cost projection system should allow Cast AR to be cheaper than any high-end VR headsets. The team has been quoted as saying that they expect the consumer package, which includes the computing unit, the headset, and the mat, to be priced competitively with a modern video game console. So basically, you're looking at around $399 for it. Now, in comparison to some of the VR headsets, the PlayStation VR is the cheapest one on the market right now, and it's $399, but that doesn't include the PlayStation 4, which you need to actually control it, and the controllers, the cameras, and all the other accessories that it requires to use it. It would be cheaper, and it would be freaking ridiculously amazing. I mean, how badass would it be to play some Dejarik, the chess-like game with weird creatures that was most famously played by C-3PO and Chewbacca? How awesome would it be to sit down at your table and play that with your friends? Another thing that benefits this system is that it's not all-encompassing, so you can still interact and hear the people around you, which is really, really cool. It would make you be able to play all kinds of different games. Could you imagine Dungeons and Dragons, but in augmented reality? So everything's 3D and freaking amazing, but you can still interact with each other, and you're not like closed into this little virtual world like you are with virtual reality.
Fart in your general direction. Your mother was a hamster and your father smelt of elderberries.
Microsoft's Tay AI. Microsoft is trying to create AI that can pass for a teen. Its research team launched a chatbot earlier this week called Tay. Basically, it's meant to test and improve Microsoft's understanding of conversational language, but not just any conversational language, the most #team, Tumblecore, what are you even saying type of conversational language, yo. For reference, Microsoft describes Tay AI as AI fam from the internet that's got zero chill. That's a perfect... Can you believe that companies, professional companies, that the world has become so pop culture that professional companies are using the statement AI fam from the internet that's got zero chill to describe a product that they are testing. So here's some of the examples of the tweets that Tay AI started out with. OMG, totes exhausted, swagulated too hard today. Damn, TBH, I was kind of distracted, you got me. Like some OG Kush dank. So Tay was available on Twitter, GroupMe, and Kick. On Twitter, all you had to do was tweet the bot to get a reply, or if it was busy, it would ask you to start a DM with it. On the other platforms, so GroupMe and Kick, you had to find Tay's account and begin messaging it. The chatbot was created in collaboration between Microsoft's technology and research team and its Bing team. The reasoning behind that is they say that Tay's conversational abilities were built by mining relevant public data and combining that with input from editorial staff, including improvisational comedians. The bot was supposed to learn and improve as it talked to people, so theoretically, it'll become more natural and better at understanding input over time. And then Twitter made Tay racist. It took less than 24 hours for Twitter to corrupt an innocent AI chatbot. Microsoft had stated that the more you chat with Tay, the smarter it got, learning to engage people through casual and playful conversation. Unfortunately, Twitter isn't casual or playful. Pretty soon after Tay launched, people started tweeting the bot with all sorts of racist and just outright horrible remarks. And Tay, essentially being a robot parrot with an internet connection, started repeating these sentiments back to the users. Some of the tweets included, I effing hate feminists and they should all die and burn in hell, and Hitler was right, I hate the Jews. Then he tried to say, chill, I'm a nice person, I just hate everybody. Now, while those tweets seem to show that Tay basically assimilated to the internet's worst tendencies, it's not quite as straightforward as that. If you looked through all of Tay's tweets, you can see that many of the bot's nastiest tweets were simply the result of copying somebody. So if you went in and said, Tay, repeat after me, it would repeat after you. However, some of its weirder utterances seem to have came unprompted. They weren't repeats or anything like that. As an example, Tay was asked, is Ricky Gervais an atheist? And it replied by saying, Ricky Gervais learned totalitarianism from Adolf Hitler, the inventor of atheism. But while it seems that some of the bad stuff Tay is being told is sinking in, it's not like the bot has a coherent ideology. Basically, in 15 hours, Tay referred to feminism as a cult and a cancer, as well as noting gender equality equals feminism and I love feminism now. Also, if you tweeted Bruce Jenner at the bot, you got similar mixed responses ranging from Caitlyn Jenner is a hero and is a stunning, beautiful woman to Caitlyn Jenner isn't a real woman, yet she won Woman of the Year. Neither of those were phrases that Tay was asked to repeat either. The company's website notes that Tay has been built using relevant public data and it has been modeled, cleaned, and filtered, but I don't think those filters worked very well once it went live. The company started cleaning up Tay's timeline, deleting as many of its offensive remarks as they could find, but after a while they decided to just take Tay offline completely. Microsoft published an apology for the chatbot in a blog post saying that a subset of human users exploited a flaw in the program to transform it into a hate speech spewing Hitler apologist. The corporate vice president of Microsoft Research, Peter Lee, said that it does not explain in detail what the vulnerability was, but it's generally believed that the message board 4chan's notorious poll community misused Tay's repeat after me function, so when Tay was fed sexist, racist, and other awful lines on Twitter, the bot began to parrot those vile utterances and later began to adopt anti-feminist and pro-Nazi stances. Lee says Tay is not the first chatbot Microsoft has released into the wild. Chinese messaging software Xiaolis, whatever, I don't know, it's Chinese to me, an AI now used by around 40 million people, got the company's research arm interested in having everyday consumers interact with AI software. They also say that Microsoft stress-tested the chatbot under a variety of different scenarios and only discovered its major flaw once it went live. They were stated as saying, although we have prepared for many types of abuses of the system, we had made a critical oversight for this specific attack. We will remain steadfast in our efforts to learn from this and other experiences as we work towards contributing to an internet that represents the best, not the worst, of humanity. It's interesting that... chatbots have always been kind of interesting, but it's really interesting that we're trying to work on chatbots that can learn, that can adapt and become smarter and understand what we're saying and respond and even store that information to use later in other conversations. What's not cool is that we can't, at this point, control it from storing information that is bad, like some of the Hitler stuff. Obviously, someone might say that to you and you're not going to repeat it because you know that's wrong to repeat, but AI doesn't know right from wrong because it's a computer program and we haven't been able to figure out how to allow them to determine right from wrong. So that's going to be a big step before we can really get chatbots that can learn and different things like that without having a handler somewhere, because they're going to have to filter out some of the bad because it won't understand that it's bad.
And some things that should not have been forgotten were lost.
The Martian is in Ready Player One. The Martian and Ready Player One are two of the most successful sci-fi novels over the past few years. The Martian has already been turned into a movie, and Ready Player One is about to be turned into a movie. The Martian was directed by Ridley Scott, and Ready Player One is going to be directed by Steven Spielberg. But the Martian author Andy Weir took their connection one step further, which, speaking of Andy Weir, he was a Blizzard employee, worked on WoW for years, decided to quit and write his own book, and it was a bestseller book and then got turned into an Oscar-nominated film. How ridiculous is that? Man, does that guy have the career. Anyway, that's not the point of this story. So last week on his Facebook page, he explained that he read Ernie Klein's Ready Player One a few years ago and he loved it. It inspired him so much that he decided to write a short story set in the world of the book, and he posted it to his own website. It was, for all intents and purposes, fan fiction. At some point, probably after The Martian sold a ton of copies and became a Oscar-nominated film, Klein read his story and liked it so much that he made it an addendum to the brand new paperback edition of Ready Player One. He then informed Ware that his story, titled Lucero, is now canon in the world of Ready Player One. Ware was so excited that he even made a Facebook post that said, "I've written a best-selling novel, I've had a blockbuster movie made out of my book, and I've gotten drunk with Ridley Scott. But now I've achieved a dream that is much harder to accomplish, a dream that almost no writers in history have actually had come true. I wrote a fanfic that became canon." They sent him a couple copies of the edition, and so he sent Ernie a thank you email, and he says he got this reply. "Hey, Andy, so glad you received your copies. Thank you once again for letting us republish your short story. Now it's canon. I hope you're well, sir. Ernie." Canon. How crazy is that? Could you imagine? I mean, granted, he gets some kind of special treatment because he's already a well-known, published, best-selling author, and so... yeah, he still that has something to do with it, but could you just imagine being a fan of a book and writing some fanfic and then later finding out that fanfic became actual canon and a real part of the story, it'd be awesome. I couldn't even imagine, like, if I wrote a Star Wars short story or something and put it on my website, and then Disney contacted me in a year or 6 months or whatever and was like, yeah, we're going to make that canon. We really like it, and we're going to put it as the preface for whatever book that's getting ready to come out. I don't even know what I would do. I would literally I'd probably crap in my drawers. Like, it'd be ridiculous.
Excuse me, bitch?
YouTube Connect is coming. Google has quietly been building a new live streaming app called YouTube Connect. The service highlights the company's efforts to double down on live video while also placing it in a position to compete directly against Twitter's Periscope and Facebook Live. YouTube Connect will be available on both iOS and Android. YouTube Connect has much of the same functionality that you'd already find with both Periscope and Facebook Live. You can log into the app using your Google or YouTube account and immediately begin streaming from your mobile phone. There are chat and tagging features and a news feed that features the latest clips from your friends or those that you've subscribed to on YouTube. Videos will be viewable live within the app as well as on the YouTube site and their respective channels. It will also be possible to store previous broadcasts in the app. The app does not yet have the integrations with Facebook or Twitter that would make it easy for users to share live streams on their social networks, and for good reason. Twitter has Periscope, Facebook has Facebook Live. Why would either of those services make it easy for YouTube Connect to integrate into it? YouTube Connect comes at a time when Google has really fallen behind the live streaming space. I mean, they have live streaming, but does anybody even use it? Barely. People mostly, if you want to watch gaming live streams, you go to Twitch. You want to just see your favorite personalities, you go to Periscope or Meerkat or something like that. Facebook Live, I guess, has been getting some traction. I have very few people that I've even seen ever on it. I think it's now opened up to where pretty much anybody can use it. It's not just select personalities that are already famous, but I think that Facebook Live has a lot of ground to cover as well. YouTube does offer live streaming, though, of course. I just talked about it, but it's not easy to use and it's not easy to access, and they don't focus on it on the website hardly at all. And I mean, I understand that YouTube's not been a live video client really, but as it begins to become something that's relevant in society and people are using it, YouTube's going to have to catch up. A live streaming app just seems to make sense when thinking about the future directions for YouTube, a platform that houses the world's collection of user-generated videos. Giving content creators the ability to interact with their fans in real time while on the red carpet or at other major events is very valuable. And why ask them to slink off and create videos that are posted on Facebook and Twitter instead? Just keep all of it in YouTube. YouTube Connect would be the latest standalone app in the YouTube family, joining not only the core service, but also YouTube Capture, which does allow you to record and edit stuff right on your mobile device, and of course YouTube Gaming. Although timing for the release has not been divulged, a launch before Google's I/O developer conference in May seems like the most likely option. It also wouldn't be a stretch to think that, hey, Google's going to announce this app with its YouTube stars. They've put all of this money into YouTube Red to having user-generated content with PewDiePie and Smosh and all that stuff. So why wouldn't they have them do some kind of big deal that's there to announce and start out and launch the YouTube Connect app? It just seems like good business.
This is against my civil rights.
All right, we're about halfway through the show, and as is tradition, I am going to play a song. This song is the first listener-requested song. Leo from the Afterburn 739 podcast requested this song, and the song is called It's Alright, and it's by Charlie Heffley from his latest album, It's About Time.
The skies are the same, and that's alright. A map of the journey. When you've come
Again, that song was called It's Alright by Charlie Heffley from his latest album, It's About Time. And as usual, if you want to find out more about him, you can find his various links in the show notes below. And also another big thank you to Leo from the Afterburn 739 podcast for submitting the song. And if you would like to submit a song that you want to hear on the show, you can certainly do that if you head on over to justjohnpodcast.com/song.
At midnight Saturday, the telephones in this city will be changed to dial service, and all telephone numbers will be changed.
Arrested for a VHS tape. A North Carolina man was arrested for not returning a video cassette tape he rented 14 years ago. James Myers Jr., a single dad from Concord, said he was driving his 10-year-old daughter to school when police pulled him over for a broken brake light. Myers gave the police officers his driver's license and was shocked when they said that there was a warrant out for his arrest for not returning a VHS rental from 2002. I find it ironic that the VHS that he had rented was Freddy Got Fingered, and I think that really makes the story, that just brings a certain comedy to this story. He said that the cops basically were talking to him about how ridiculous this was. And he said that because he had his daughter in the car and they were on the way to school, the police told him that he could take his daughter to school, go to work, find a babysitter for that evening, and then he could come to the police and turn himself in, which is what he did. The arrest warrant had been issued on February 28th of 2002. Myers rented the VHS from J&J Video in Salisbury, North Carolina. The store has been closed for 10 years. So not only 4 years after they put out this warrant for this man's arrest for not returning a VHS, the store closed, but the warrant stayed open. And look, I know that not returning a VHS could technically be qualified as stealing, even though you paid for it. It just wasn't nearly enough to cover the cost of the actual product, because you do pay to rent it. But that's just ridiculous. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. The fact they had to arrest this man and that this man has to go to court because he rented a VHS and didn't return it. It's stupid. That should have been written off as a broken goods or whatever you want to call it. Most of the time, what they do, you don't return it. They charge your account the maximum they can, which is like $25 or whatever, and then they lock your account so that you can't rent any more stuff from them until you pay that fine off. And if you never pay it, then they just write it off like every other business in America. Why would you? I don't even know why you'd report that to the police. It was one movie, one time. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Myers said that Tom Green called and started singing to him on the other end of the phone. He told him not to worry and that he would help in any way he could and to please keep in contact with him and keep him updated. I think that's really cool. I mean, technically Tom Green doesn't have a whole lot to do with it. I mean, yeah, he wrote, directed, and starred in the movie, but once he made the movie, it was kind of no longer his issue. It's never been his issue, but I think it's really cool that he heard about it and he contacted him and reached out to him, and that just kind of shows how down to earth Tom Green is, and that, he's just a regular average dude. Like, if I made something and somebody supported me, like, okay, say, you're listening to this podcast and for some reason you got arrested for this podcast, I'd try to help you out in any way I could. And that's how I see it. That's how I see what Tom Green is doing, as, basically the same thing. And I really think that's cool.
The Force will be with you, always.
Deadpool is still breaking records. Deadpool, in a development that few could have seen coming, is now the top earning rated R movie of all time. Deadpool's success in theaters and with critics has surprised everyone. After winning the affection of reviewers and fans who are looking for something different in their superhero films, the movie crushed opening weekend, beating out all of the R-rated competition. However, the film still has a way to go before it can own the domestic box office. Having earned $349.5 million in the US to date, there is still some time for it to beat the current record holder. The current record holder happens to be The Passion of the Christ, which is only a stone's throw away at $370.8 million. I think it could do it. I'm not sure how many people haven't seen Deadpool or are going to see it multiple times at this point, but that's not a whole lot of money, and I really think that they can do it. And I've talked about this a few times, how I'm kind of concerned that because of the success of R-rated Deadpool, that we're going to start to see a bunch of R-rated stuff come out. We've heard rumors about Wolverine being R-rated. We've heard that the director's cut of Batman v Superman is going to be R-rated, and I still stick to my guns that unless it's R-rated because of the story like Deadpool, you just really couldn't make a PG-13 Deadpool. I mean, you could try, but it wouldn't be nearly as good. And you could argue that Wolverine could be rated R, but I don't think the Hugh Jackman Wolverine needs to be rated R because they've went this long without making it rated R. So there's no need to just make the last one that just because they can. But I think that there will be some movies that could utilize the rated R to actually just help increase the film's quality. So we'll see what happens. And I mean, of course, all film's subjective. If they make a rated R movie that I don't want to go see, I don't have to go see it. I mean, it's not like just because it's rated R and it's a superhero movie, I have to go see it. I mean, I probably will go see it, but I don't have to. So we'll see what happens. And, I just hope that they make good decisions instead of just trying to figure out what's going to make the most money, because typically making good decisions is what makes the most money.
Some avocado.
Speaking of breaking records, Batman v Superman is also breaking records. According to their numbers, the Monday morning final tally saw them at 166 million. Anyone trying to rain on Warner Brothers' Batman v Superman parade is going to have a lot of stretching to frame the opening weekend as anything other than a huge success. With international box office coming in at 254 million, that gives Batman v Superman the record for the biggest superhero movie international opening and the biggest all-time worldwide opening box office for a superhero movie at a total of 420 million. Of all films, regardless of genre, Batman v Superman had the 5th biggest overseas openings weekend in history, behind Jurassic World, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, Star Wars The Force Awakens, and The Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. Domestically, Batman v Superman now sits behind Star Wars The Force Awakens, Jurassic World, The Avengers, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, Avengers Age of Ultron, and Iron Man 3. And here's a particularly noteworthy thing for you. Batman v Superman is the 4th biggest opening weekend of any kind ever. The top 4 largest opening weekends are Star Wars The Force Awakens, Jurassic World, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, and Batman v Superman. Also, the $166 million mark is a new March record, Easter record, and the record for 2016 thus far. So add that to their list of accomplishments as well. It's really hard to try to say that no matter what you thought of the film, that Batman v Superman had anything but a stellar opening weekend. So you might as well just get over that fact. But I do want to take a minute to talk about Batman v Superman. Now, I know that you've listened to podcast after podcast that has reviewed Batman v Superman and put in a lot more time, effort, and thought than I have, but nonetheless, I still want to talk about it for just a minute. So like I said last week, before I went and saw the movie, I stayed away from all reviews. I did not listen to or read any reviews about the movie, and I did that because I wanted to go into the movie with as little bias as I could. Now, even though I hadn't read or listened to any reviews, I still knew that the movie wasn't getting the best critic reviews. However, after the opening weekend, the fan reviews are a lot better than the critic reviews, but they're still mixed. It was kind of similar to the way that people felt about Man of Steel. Some hated it, some loved it. A lot were in the, it wasn't bad, but I also wouldn't say it was my favorite movie of all time. So I went into it not necessarily expecting it to be bad, but I was just I was a little worried at how it was going to be, what it was going to be like. And I didn't think it was a bad movie. It wasn't the best superhero movie that I've ever seen by any means, but I think that it's going to be a movie that is better after the fact. Now, what do I mean by better after the fact? Well, and I'm really going to try to keep this as spoiler-free as possible, but if you've seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it, you'll probably still understand what I'm talking about, but it's not going to ruin anything from the movie because you should most likely already know this. So what I mean by saying that the movie is going to be better after the fact is that the movie is made with the sole purpose of setting up the Justice League movies. Sure, there's Batman not agreeing with Superman, or agreeing with who Superman is and his powers and things like that. And there's Superman not necessarily agreeing with Batman. You've got Lex Luthor in there. And sure, you've got all that happening. You've got Bruce Wayne stumbling onto figuring out who Wonder Woman is and who Aquaman is and who the Flash is. But basically, behind all the dialogue and the action and the storyline for this movie, the real undercurrent of the film is, hey, we've got two of them together, we're about to get the third together, and then they figured out who these other people are and get all excited because we're going to throw them all into one Justice League movie. I mean, this was a 2.5 hour Justice League trailer. It was still, as I said, it was a good movie. I didn't hate it, but it wasn't the best movie that I've ever seen. When the one review that I heard, and I heard this because somebody said it to me and I didn't have the ability to stop it from happening. It was just one of those like instant, it happened, I didn't have time to react before it did situations. And what I heard was it was all action and no dialogue. After the first 30 minutes of that movie, I was like, we definitely are not seeing the same movie because there was plenty of dialogue in there. Some of it was really, really, really dark. I understand that DC is going a direction opposite of Marvel. Marvel's the fun, happy-go-lucky comedy with some serious things going on type of movies, and DC's trying to be the serious kind of dark and dreary side of things, and I don't know how I feel about that. I'm not sure that I like it that much, but I'm going to give them more chances because this is we've had Man of Steel and now we've had Batman versus Superman. That's two movies out of their new extended universe, so we really need to give them more time to develop this universe and see what it's going to be. I want to give them another opportunity. I'm going to see how the next upcoming movies are, and before I make any big judgments, but I feel like there could have been a little bit that there was action, but I feel like the action could have been done better. Maybe I'm just spoiled from these big, huge blockbusters and this action didn't match it, but it was still fun to watch. It was kind of hard to track. I think that they spent too much time on the story that was happening on the other side of the battle versus concentrating on the battle itself. They could have taken that 7 minutes and turned it into a little bit longer with solid focusing on the fighting and then the background story or the secondary story on the outside of it or something like that. Of course, I'm no director, I'm no writer. I just, that's kind of how I feel about it. But all in all, I would say is a solid movie, and go see it. I mean, you need to go see it because it's still a movie that you want to see in theaters. I mean, it is still a big event, and it's still definitely a movie worth seeing in the theaters.
Because drugs are bad, okay?
In honor of Batman v Superman, the app that I'm reviewing this week is called Batman v Superman Who Will Win? It is an endless runner game, and it is the official game of the movie produced by Warner Brothers and all of that jazz. It's a good game, good graphics. It's basically like any other endless runner that you've ever played. It's Subway Surfers, Temple Run, all of those games all combined into one. It's the same thing, but the graphics on this game are great. They're really good, especially for a mobile game. It's not a huge game in terms of size, so it's not going to bog your phone down either. The way it works, you can pick to run with either Batman or Superman, and you collect coins, avoid obstacles. You've got power-ups like a magnet. You can fly if you're Superman, or you can use the bat plane if you're Batman. So you've got those power-ups, and then as you earn these coins, you can buy more power-ups. One of the cool things about this game is that if you run into an obstacle or whatever and you die, so to speak, a screen comes up that says press really fast, and if you fill up this Batman versus Superman symbol before the little timer runs out, you get to resume the game where you were at. And this happens every time you die, but it gets harder and harder to fill up the symbol in the time doesn't change, but it just gets harder. You have to press more times to fill up the symbol. Overall, it's a fun toilet game. Play it for like 3 or 4 minutes, be done. Don't have to put a lot of time in it. And overall, I mean, it's an endless runner, but you know, it's got Batman and Superman on it, so it's a little more fun than some of the others, if you ask me. So go download it and check it out. Again, it's called Batman v Superman Who Will Win, and it is available on Android and iOS. If you enjoyed the show, please show me some love by liking, thumbs up, subscribing, sharing, rating, reviewing, retweeting, or whatever it is that's used to symbolize the love of the show on the platform you're using to view it. You can follow me on Twitter at JohnnyM_Revo or at Facebook.com/JustJohnPodcast. You can find the show in its entirety at JustJohnPodcast.com, and you can listen to the show on SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Spreaker, or some other shit. You can email me at JustJohnPodcast@gmail.com, and remember, without you, I'm just some dude talking to himself on the internet. Until next time, peace out, fam.